One of the other issues that I've been following, Brother Amos, is the tremendous loss of life and the lack of peace in the African world. And what got me to thinking about this was this article that Professor Michelle Alexander, whom we all know as the author of the New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander, uh, produced this article in The Nation titled "Only Revolutionary Love Can Save Us Now." And like most of the things that Professor Alexander has written, I'm a big fan of. And I don't want to go through the article here, but I want to talk about what it was in the article that kind of inspired these thoughts that I have. She says we must also demand. No, if we are to honor the principles and values for which Dr. King sacrificed his life, we must demand a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the occupation of Palestine. We must speak unpopular truths and organize to save our planet, rebirth our democracy, and embrace human creativity and the natural beauty of our world rather than artificial intelligence and virtual reality. We must also demand a ceasefire in our communities. But I'm not talking simply about ending violence in our streets, violence born of trauma, despair, and desperation. Last year was a record setting year for police killings in the United States, the highest rate of police killings in more than a decade. So, what this got me to thinking about was what are the critical areas of the African world where we need peace the most? And I always use the definition of the good doctor, the great man, our esteemed ancestor, Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, true peace is not merely the absence of tension. True peace is the presence of justice. You cannot have any peace without justice. And that may involve, or probably will involve in many instances, you have to eradicate those who are, or at least neutralize those who are opposed to peace. We've never could have had the African origin of civilization and the development of ancient Kemet, where African people were able to walk the earth for over 3,000 years as free, proud, productive, prosperous, and powerful people without peace. Now, obviously, there were intermediate periods where there was turmoil that had to be, neutralized, like the Hyksos and other many rebellions and other outsider rebellions. But in order to develop, in order to bring about the kind of world that we want to see, particularly for African people, where we have self-determination, we're free, proud, productive, and prosperous and powerful, we have to have peace. So I was thinking about where are the critical areas where we need peace, because when we hear these demands for a ceasefire in Gaza, and certainly there needs to be a ceasefire in Gaza. The last Euromed report, which is higher than the Gaza Health Ministries, and I think both of their accounts are undercounts. But I think the Gaza Health Ministries has the total number of deceased at over 31,000, and Euromed, who hasn't, last time I looked, they hadn't updated their stats since February 23rd. They were already at 38,000. So this is a tremendous amount of loss of life. And of course, we demand a ceasefire there because genocide is being committed against the people of Palestine. But we also need ceasefires in various parts of Africa. The most important ceasefire we need would be in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in the Eastern Congo, where since the ethnocide in Rwanda, which spilled over into the Kivu provinces of the Congo in 1995, by some estimates up to 5 million. The low count is probably 3 million, 3 to 5 million Africans have died and are continuing to die because of the latest assault by the March 23 organization. And, Congolese Tutsis supported by Rwanda on the rampage. And of course, we know that the South African development community has sent in troops to try to thwart this, but we need peace, particularly in the DRC, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We need peace in Ethiopia. And the reason why I would go to Ethiopia next is because Ethiopia represents, I think, the country in Africa that probably has the most potential to be a leader in terms of moving our people towards liberation and empowerment. We had a great moment a couple of years ago when Dr. and the Lady Pandor of South Africa, the president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, and others developed an African solution to the problem in Ethiopia between the Ethiopian government and the rebel Tigray Liberation People's Organization, the Tigray Ethiopian War. They found an African solution to it. Didn't need any Europeans, the United States, or anyone else involved. They met in South Africa, hammered out a peace treaty. And we thought this is a great moment. Now, we knew that there was still a conflict in the Oromia region with the OLA, the Oromo Liberation Army, or Oromo Liberation Front. But we said, once we get this thing with the TPLF under control, Ethiopia can now start reaching towards the development that we know it's capable of. But that situation was never brought under control. And then, to our surprise, the Amhara militias that had fought with Ethiopia against Tigray then turned on the Ethiopian government. And the Fano organization now has been making advances. And so you have two groups. It's somewhat ethnic, or maybe primary ethnic. There's tension there between, the Oromia organizations and the Amharic organizations. And so Ethiopia can't possibly reach its full potential, which will benefit, I say, the entire African continent, but particularly East Africa. So we need peace there. We know of the tragedy that is taking place in Sudan, where the death toll now is probably somewhere over 15,000 people, millions of people displaced. We need peace in Sudan. We need peace there. We need peace in Somalia. Somalia has been disrupted for over 30 years. We remember the Black Hawk Down situation. We had a brief moment there where we thought Somalia might be moving towards stability with the Islamic courts, the Union of Islamic Courts. George Bush, Condoleezza Rice hired the government of Ethiopia at the time to attack Somalia, and Somalia has been destabilized since this attack that was organized by Bush and Rice, 2006, 2007, and whereas you had a moderate organization in the Islamic courts, they were replaced by a radical organization, Al-Shabaab, who declared its allegiance to Al-Qaeda. And now you have turmoil there. We had Ethiopia has been bombed, not Ethiopia, Somalia has been bombed by the last 4 American presidents, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden have all bombed Somalia. This is not even in the news. It's not even being discussed. We need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire in the DRC. We need a ceasefire in Ethiopia. We need a ceasefire in Sudan. We need a ceasefire in Ethiopia. And of course, we need peace in the Sahel region, because in the Sahel region of Africa, we see the potential of a federation of states, that are striving at this moment, appears certainly to be striving towards self-determination and self-reliance in the spirit of Thomas Sankara. We're talking about Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Niger has asked that the United States remove its forces from Niger. They have the base that Barack Obama started, the drone base, the $100 million plus drone base they've invested in. They've been asked to leave the same way they forced the French out. We'll see what happens there. But we need peace in the Sahel. Of course, we know that the instability in the Sahel is a direct result of the events that took place in Libya in 2011 when the Libyan government was overthrown and the country has been destabilized. That destabilization spread south and is affecting the Sahel, but it's also affecting Nigeria. We need peace in Nigeria, Africa's most populous country. Both the northeast and northwestern sections of Nigeria are in turmoil. We see kidnappings of school children. We have the Islamists, the Islamic State, West African province, and Boko Haram wreaking havoc in the northeastern section of Nigeria. And then we have mafia type organizations, they call them bandits, that are kidnapping children and demanding ransoms. I think there was just another recent kidnapping this week of 100 to 200 children by bandits in northwestern, and actually the northwestern is actually even creeping more towards the central, the north central part of Nigeria. So we certainly need peace there, and then there's still the continuing Islamist activity in northern Mozambique. We need peace in all of those areas. We need peace in this hemisphere on the island of Haiti. Haiti, such a symbol of Black pride, a symbol of what African people can do when our brothers and sisters there beginning, with Bookman Dudas, Cecile Fatimone, in the 1790s, 1791, 1792, when they fought a war against the French that eventually led to the independence. And the country has been punished ever since they defeated the most powerful European army in the world. The island of Haiti, our people in Haiti have been punished. And now we have a situation that has deteriorated. Anthony Blinken met with Dr. William Ruto of Kenya last week to try to convince him to still send 1,000 Kenyan police. You could be sending these people to their slaughter because of the situation where you have these gangs that are receiving weapons from oligarchs who are purchasing the weapons primarily from the United States. That's why you see people hungry and starving, but you see all these guys running around with AR-15s and AK-47s. Doesn't make any sense. So Haiti, we need peace in Haiti. We certainly need peace. We need peace there for our people. Long suffering, just because they were able to defeat, the European, the French Empire under Napoleon. We have a situation where we are in another era of what Dr. Amos Wilson called, Black self-annihilation in service of white domination here in the United States. We need peace in the urban communities here in the United States. And one trend that we are seeing, we discussed this on one show when we talked about the killing of so many children, filicide. We're seeing a terrible trend where we have these, I can't call them men, but they are people, they are males with melanin who are killing our sisters and their children. And just a number of instances. I mean, it's where, even during the height of we had the first outbreak of violence, right, with the importation of heroin. That led to, that was the first outbreak where these gangs, were developed, and you had all these turf wars because of, narcotics prohibition produced the same kind of violence that alcohol prohibition produced in the Irish and the Italian and the Jewish communities in the 1920s and 1930s. Here we're talking about Al Capone and Frank Nitti and Lucky Luciano and Dutch Schultz and all of these people. And so we had an outbreak of violence there. As a matter of fact, in 1 year, Dr. Wilson talks about this in his book, Black on Black Violence, you had more black men killed in 1977 than the total number of black soldiers killed in Vietnam in 1977. And then the second outbreak came in the mid 1980s through the 1990s with the crack cocaine epidemic. And we know, how that came about. The Reagan administration, Oliver North, the Iran-Contra deal, drugs, sold, moved out of Central America and into, the cities, urban communities, Freeway, Rick Ross, and all of the other kingpins that were selling crack cocaine. There was a tremendous outbreak once again of internecine conflict, the Crips and the Bloods, the Gangster Disciples, various organizations. But in both of those instances, particularly like when, say during the crack cocaine epidemic, where you did have drive-by shootings, we didn't see the number of children and women being killed. And now, we in a third era of drug-induced violence. I think. I mean, drugs are just one factor, not the total factor, but it's not really the opioid epidemic is not getting the same kind of attention in our community that crack cocaine got. Of course, opioids and fentanyl, and which thousands of people are dying from drug overdoses, every year here in the United States. But it's mind-boggling to think about these men that are killing here in Charlotte. Makheru Johnson, 22 years old, along with her two children, the youngest of which was only 7 months old.
It's crazy.
What kind of person does this? I mean, so, we've had an epidemic. I think we've had about 10 homicides in Charlotte, within the last 7 or 8 days. Incredible. And then, so you had that situation. You had the 26-year-old black man in Pennsylvania that killed his stepmother, his 13-year-old sister, and the 25 or 26-year-old mother of his children. Man, what is this? You had the guy in Chicago, and a lot of this is on the system. The system will release these violent people. They got, Willie Simmons. I mean, you got people in jail that serving life without parole, haven't committed a violent crime. Their third offense was, trying to sell $25 worth of weed or something like that. They let these guys back out on the streets because they know most likely they're going to kill another black person. So this guy in Chicago, broke in his house. The sister had a restraining order against him. He had just been released from jail. He broke his, he violated his parole. I don't know why he was released from jail. Her 11-year-old son attempted to protect his mother. He stabbed the 11-year-old kid to death. Okay, and then the most recent thing, two sisters, 22-year-old twins, were stabbed by a guy that they rejected. a bum, probably a low life, no good, whatever. Maybe with somebody with mental illness. I don't know. But he stabbed these two sisters. I think they were 22 years old. Also, I think I might be getting some of these ages mixed up, but and one of them died. The other one, I think, is still hospitalized. And the person who did this hasn't been caught. I don't know if he was a person of African descent or not, but they had been in a club together, and you know, some things. The sisters rejected the guy. Okay, go on about your business. Find there's somebody else. I mean, all of these women with nobody. Come on, man. And but it's just a tragedy that we see all of these young women and these children being killed in our community. So we need a ceasefire in urban America, from New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Charlotte, Memphis, Atlanta, Dallas, New Orleans, St. Louis, Chicago, Milwaukee, Los Angeles. So I mean, these are some areas that, when we're talking about a ceasefire in Gaza, which everybody agrees is an absolute necessity, but we have areas of our world, the African world, where even more people have been killed or even are still being killed, and you know it's not a priority item. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention, Brother Amos.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of these guys idolize movies like Scarface. Even Tony Montana said, "No kids."
Mm.
I don't understand how you can kill a 7-month-year-old child and not just turn yourself in. Like, you got to be a psychopath, and this goes back to Dr. Bobby Wright, the psychopathic racial personality, where we are really taking on the psychopathic personality of
Hmm.
our enslavers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And it's going to take a complete and total, uh, not just a transformation, but to be all honest, we're going to have to totally eliminate their personality from our being, and from the people that don't want to eliminate that, we're going to have to ostracize these people, because when you get so far gone where you could kill a baby that can't even talk yet, all the baby can do is cry, there's no saving that person.
None.
There's no resurrecting that
Nope.
person.
Nothing.
Nothing you can do to resurrect somebody
Mm-mm.
who would do that. Anybody
Nothing.
who says that there's a chance you could save that person, you need to go
Nope.
too.
Mm-mm. No way. No way. No way. No way. I mean, if you had a just street organization, a drop squad or something, I mean, look, I'm serious, man. I mean, I'm not advocating, you I'm unalterably opposed to random violence. Okay. Unalterably opposed to random violence. But man, something has to be done. And I mean, I'm not saying that, that more violence is the answer, but I mean, if it's my daughter,
Yeah, it's only one thing that's going to happen.
I mean, I'm
Only
just,
one thing that's going to happen.
I mean, if there's any way possible, and I mean, and I'll just deal with the consequences, you know. So I mean, it's just we, but see, a lot of it starts almost with, that's why Dr. Wilson subtitled the book "The Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation," the ideas that are planted in the minds. And man, I hear some of my neighbors. I have this one family, and I hear the mother and the grandmother cursing these children out like they are just hoodlums, standing on a corner peddling drugs. And I'm saying, what um, the brilliant Tupac Shakur, the hate you give, right?
Mm-hmm.
you know, the hate you give little infants, elves, everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this, I can see these children going into a rage when they are, 13, 14, 15 years old, because I'm like, man, and when you try to, one of the children was sitting on the porch crying, just, and it was, this was back during, we didn't have much of a winter. That's another issue Michelle Alexander brought up. I mean, it's like winters don't exist anymore. But this happened to be a particularly cold night. And I just went outside for some reason, and child was sitting on the porch just bawling. I walked up to the house. I said, "What are you doing sitting out here in the cold?" They put me out.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "They put you outside for what?" Because I spilled a drink, or I mean, something ridiculous. I'm like, okay, knock, knock, knock. Okay, curse me, I'll do whatever. I don't. They finally heard me out there talking, and you know, told the child to come in. But I mean, it's like a lot of this is the parents, man, or what passes for parents.
Well, see, you had in that situation, you had the courage to step up, and even though it was somebody that wasn't related to you, you had the courage to step up and speak on it. And that's the problem that happens in our community is so many people see stuff happen that they know is wrong, but they just keep going about their day and they don't speak up on it. And that's the difference from 30 years ago. You know, when I was coming up, everybody in the community could discipline you. It could be, the neighbor across the street, the neighbor up the street, the teacher at school. So you had a lot of checks and balances before you even got to your parents or your grandparents.
Right.
And now it's almost as if people get offended if you try to give their child some disciplinary advice or correct them when they know when you know that they're wrong. The parent will oftentimes still take the defense of the child, even when they know that the child is wrong. And then when people see younger people doing things that they know is incorrect, instead of correcting it because they don't want to offend anyone, we've got to a state now and nobody wants to be judgmental or offend anybody. People just stay silent.
Yeah, and the other part of it is fear or self preservation, because these people will go off on you, and shoot, people have been killed because they tried to intervene. I mean, we had a situation like that here in Charlotte not too long ago, where a guy was trying to break up a fight and got killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I forgot where this was. I can't remember where this was, but there were two families. The children were in the street fighting. The mother of of one group of the children came out, and the media never gives you really the kind of details you want from these kind of stories. Maybe you have to go maybe plowing through Facebook or somewhere to try to find it. The mother got involved. Here comes the father. He comes over. He confronts the mother. I don't know if the mother greased him up or what. His children, rather than going over there and getting his children, getting them back home, he goes over there and confronts the mother. He leaves. He walks to his car, comes back, shoots this black woman. She was in the streets. I don't know if she was actually fighting, but they said she was involved in the fight. Shot her 3 times. I forgot how old she was. This might have been the grandmother. She might have been 50 or 40 because she had a 20-year-old daughter. But, you know, she could have had the children in the streets may have been teenagers. I don't know. The daughter, after her mother got shot, the daughter pulls out a gun, starts shooting at the guy that shot her mother, missed him, and shot somebody else that was in the streets. This is just absolute madness. See, we always talk about, well, the police don't de-escalate. The police don't de-escalate. How many times do we see we see our people fighting on social media and nobody's trying to de-escalate? Everybody's urging them on.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's urging them on. Everybody's urging them on. You know, and so in restaurants or shopping centers or whatever, fight breaks out. Nobody tries to de-escalate. This guy walks up, your children fight. Get your children and get them back home. Now you facing a murder charge, and I can't remember if the young lady, she's facing charge. I don't know if the person, I can't remember if the person she shot died or whatnot. This was like within the last week or so. I mean, there's so many of these things that are taking place. I mean, you could just get totally bogged down and just become very frustrated and depressed by seeing all these things. But we know because we just celebrated what is it, 89 years, I think, of our sister, the great esteemed ancestor, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. And we know that we know what we were. And this is not that long ago. And so we know what we can become. And Dr. Welsing, one of the great values of Dr. Welsing, which there were so many, she explained to us why these things happen. And she said, when the white supremacist dynamic saw black people standing up facing police dogs, fire hoses, horses, armed policemen, they said, no. You can't have people like that. We got to do something. We got to do something to turn this consciousness around and make it counter-revolutionary. And so that's where they started pouring all this money into the media, so that we just get bombarded with just nothing but negativism. I mean, there's some positive, I remember KRS, self-destruction. We're headed for self-destruction. You might get one out of what, 100 or something, but that's why it happened. But it doesn't mean it can't be overcome. As difficult as it looks. But the reason why, I started in Africa was because, it's a global problem. We need a global African peace movement, as the first step towards, Abibifahodie.
Ashe. Brothers and sisters, leave your comments down in the comments section. How do we start a global African movement, as Brother Makheru has discussed, towards peace and Abibifahodie? Hate, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, Abibifahodie.
Abibifahodie.